Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday. It is IDAGIO.com, IDAGIO Live, where classical music happens. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you all again. I've been a bit off the beaten track for a while and have had some guests take over our Tuesday song series. But we're here tonight, as you can see, Christy Finn, the director of the Hampsong Foundation. We are here tonight as the Hampsong Foundation and Thomas Hampson to talk about our future plans and how the Song Tuesdays are going to develop, and some very exciting guests and projects that we have lined up for you. We're just going to talk a little bit, kind of interviewing ourselves as if we were interviewing another company as the Hampsong Foundation. As you know, the Hampsong Foundation I formed, I guess, back in 2003, 2004. As essentially a platform for singing, singers, and song, especially. And as you will see, we're going to take you onto screen sharing and onto our website and show you the wonderful projects we've done so far and the amazing amount of resources that we've actually aggregated over the last several years. It's quite exciting. But the idea, my primary idea, was to have a place that I could share my adventures as a singer and as a lover of song and poetry with my younger colleagues, whether they be students or in fact younger colleagues, which by now most of my colleagues are younger, but we'll talk about that some other time or never. And also for listeners who just love song or have heard a song and wanted to know more about where that song came from or the poem or so forth. I've always believed that somehow the marriage or dialogue, probably better said, between a poem and its metaphors and music trying to sort of find that language of music to flesh out that metaphor is a extremely exciting and informative diary of whatever culture or epoch that had come from. Now, that's a long way around saying that if you really look at Schubert and his poets, you will understand the times they lived in. You will even understand Germanness and Austrianness better, and Central Europe, the beginning of the 20th of the 19th century. I would even maintain that you would understand the birth of the Romantic, which was really about self-determination and the power of the individual and the right of the individual to think and develop as they themselves saw fit. So song can be really a kaleidoscope. I'm now either off air or have been switched off. If you're still seeing me, I apologize. I'm having all sorts of technical issues here tonight.
Apparently I am as well, so.
Yeah, all of a sudden you just, here I'm back. I'm not back. I was back. Oh my God. Please forgive us, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a game. My computer has just gone completely and utterly berserk. Let's see if you're, I found you. I'm back. Terribly sorry. Technical glitches are technical glitches. I did one of these shows actually from a rest stop on the Autobahn on my telephone, hooked up to my computer. So we always get through, kind of like the Postal Service, rain, snow, hail, or bad connection. We are with you. So as I was saying, I think song, poetry, and music specifically is a wonderful identifier of cultures and epochs from which they come and the people that live in them. And I think if we know our songs, whatever culture you are watching this segment, or other people's songs, other people's poetry, I think we have a gentler and more fuller understanding of who we are, first and foremost, as people, as human beings, coming from different perspectives. So that was kind of a big picture idea of why I thought maybe a foundation would be good. But a foundation is really built on resources and details. And we'd like to show you through projects and resource places on our Hampsong Foundation what we do for a living, as it were, and the services that we provide. We've got a wonderful community of young colleagues that are starting to use the resources. We are in cooperation with several educational institutions, including the University of Michigan and Manhattan School of Music, and of course, IDAGIO.com. And by the way, tonight, for the first time on this Tuesday, we are actually broadcasting live, not just on IDAGIO Live on YouTube, but also on the Hampsong Facebook website, which is very exciting because we have a lot of people that like to follow us who maybe, but anyway, we just have a bigger, wider public. Now, part of the announcement tonight is also that with this cooperation with the IDAGIO.com and the IDAGIO Live project, the Hampsong Foundation is going to produce and partner with them for all of the Tuesday projects. And we're going to call this series Song and Beyond. Isn't that catchy? I love it. It's almost like where classical music is active. Song and Beyond, because there's going to be a lot of song, a lot of music, a lot of humanities around song, where song comes from, historical perspectives, fun things, different kinds of songs. The Hampsong initiative and mandate is certainly what we call classic song, and that is literally the phenomenon of a poem, which doesn't need music, being set to music, which doesn't need a poem. So really you have in the world of art a very unique event that a third art form is formed out of two completely independent art forms. And this lets us discuss some really interesting social, political, psychological, deeply personal connections of why the song makes you feel the way it does. Now, the collective experience we can describe as a collective. We can even set up the parameters that we're all in the same space having that experience. But what you experience in a song is deeply personal, deeply individual, and completely your right of feeling and interpretation, if you will. And that's another reason why I wanted to make this foundation, to give you the tools, anyone the tools, whether you be a singer or a passionate listener, to have a richer experience of poetry and music. So that's my preamble. Anything else, Christy?
Well, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for inviting me to come and chat like we do pretty much every day now, during quarantine especially, but now publicly for everyone to hear. And it's been really fun. Of course, a lot of work, but it's been so much fun working with you since I started in 2009 as just content managing for Song of America, and then becoming the managing director in 2012. And it's really exciting that we can get on to IDAGIO now and show everyone the projects that we've been doing, because we have invested little by little sometimes in the libraries that we're building. And I think it's maybe not very well known how many good resources and interesting resources we do actually have on our websites. So,
and one of the things we really enjoy doing for people on our website is aggregating other websites. This isn't just about getting you to come to Hampsong Foundation.org. This is about how foundations like this really function in today's world, which is very exciting. So that if you're working on something and you want to know something else from somewhere else, you can stay put, but go off and find it and come back. And there's just so many wonderful resources on the net now. And if there is, and please forgive me if this offends anybody, but if there is a silver lining to this horrible COVID time, it is in my world or our world, certainly that there is just a general acceptance and recognition of a kind of digital existence that we all can have and all do have. And certainly in higher education, we've seen, you read the news, you know as well as anybody else, that a lot of schools are not opening, or they're opening with sort of digital and analog experiences. That is certainly in the performing arts. A lot of big institutions cannot open the doors. Smaller institutions maybe have a chance to do more online as well as for people. We're going to see this hybrid moving forward. And the good news is most of the digital capturing up until the COVID crisis was a kind of snapshot of something happening somewhere else. And we are now in a world where we are producing when I say analog, I mean physically people sitting in a room, either as a performance or as a lecture or something, as well as fully knowing there's an interactive digital public following or following along or participating as well. So this development is what we're at the beginning of. And this is something that the Hampsong Foundation just wants to go forward like crazy. IDAGIO.com has been a brilliant leader in this field. One of the deepest and oldest established streaming platform of classical music built by classic musicians and run by classical musicians, a user interface that is just a blessing for the classical music world. And we're going to show you how some of that works on IDAGIO tonight. And then with the COVID, we'd always planned to have a video process on IDAGIO, but with the COVID crisis, it just seemed incredibly important already in February just to get out here and get peoples and artists and colleagues and the musical world linking faces and expressions and experiences for you, our public, and also, quite frankly, for us, that we still have some kind of feeling of contact, that what we do is more important than who we are. It takes some training to talk to a green dot on a screen, but it's possible and it's very useful. And then, very excitingly, IDAGIO went to the next level, which was IDAGIO.com, the company, to what is called the Global Concert Hall. And this is truly the new world of hybrid performance, analog and digital. And it is all around giving a platform for artists and presenters, as for the artists, to reach their public as closely and as quickly as possible. It is a paywall so that you can participate in the lives of and the fees of making these musical events possible. It's a pretty humble amount of money on I think it's 10, 12, 13, I'm not exactly sure, but it's not any more than that, dollars or euros. That's not the point. You have a paywall, you sign up for it, you get the concert lives online for 24 hours. Sometimes, generously, it can live longer, but when it's gone, which is a little bit like a performance, obviously. And the split between the functioning parties is incredibly generous to the performers, as it well should be. So, that's why I'm a big fan of IDAGIO.com and why I've invested so much of my own effort and interest, because there's just the streaming platform of general interest, the learning platform that we're all very interested in giving people the tools to have a richer experience in classical music, and of course, the performing world as well. We're at the beginning of this great project, both in the world and IDAGIO specifically, and we still have some burps and bumps once in a while. We are dependent upon internet connection, obviously. A wonderful group of people in Berlin and across the world making the graphics possible, the connections possible, the playlists possible, the amazing database possible. So let's dive in. Let's see what we can make out of this world and see what's fun. Where do we go, Christy? Should we go online?
Yeah, let's go to the Hampsong Foundation website.
Okay, I'm gonna let's see if I get it done. I'm gonna screen share. I'm getting a spinning ball, but maybe I'll be lucky. I have to find.
Well, if you want, I can share it.
All right, if you're more secure and quicker, go for it.
I'll go for it.
I think my browser crashed behind here. I don't know what's going on tonight. The gremlins have got me. Okay, here we are.
Okay, well, here we are.
Here's the landing page for Hampsong Foundation.
Yep, exactly. And you can see a little bit about us, our mission, everything that Thomas just spoke about. But the real heart and soul is this section, the projects. Yeah. And I wanted us to highlight two of our most important projects. The first being the Song Mirror of the World radio series that we developed. And this was a 13-week radio series that we developed with WFMT Chicago, the radio network. And we worked with some really amazing scholars and radio professionals to talk about basically the history of Western culture through the art form of song. And you can
In
see
fact,
by the titles.
the byline, sorry to interrupt, but the byline of the
Yeah,
project was the history of culture or of American culture through the eyes of poets and the ears of
yeah.
composers. And lest you be nervous that we talk too much, the 1 hour projects, each one of these things are 40 minutes of music and 20 minutes of narration because the songs actually tell the story that we're after. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and it was important for us to always play the entire song as much as possible. And
Yes.
I think we did that 95% of the time. Um, and as you can see here, the first program is one that's just talking about our Thomas's thesis, basically, that song is a diary, and each song is a page of that diary. And then we jump in with Vienna and singing the romantic self with Schubert, and we kind of go through all of history all the way up to the present day and the return of melody, we call that one. But I wanted to highlight my favorite program, and I know I wrote it, so of course it's one of my favorites. But I can remember back to when you and I were developing the whole series, Thomas, and we were brainstorming about this specific program, the 89s. And it kind of takes snapshots of the years 1789, 1889, and 1989. And it was really, really fun. I wrote the script for this one, and we noticed just all of these really important musical and cultural and historical events happening in these years. And we just took that and ran with it. And the program opens in 1989 in Berlin with Leonard Bernstein performing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and the fall of the Berlin Wall, basically. And
Exactly.
yeah, and we had some more Bernstein songs, Bright Shang. It was also the time of the AIDS crisis. And then we have John Adams' incredible work, The Wound Dresser, which was also written at that time, although it sets the poetry of Walt Whitman.
Exactly.
And you can talk about this more, Tom, but this piece is one that I think transcends time. And you have Whitman there in that Civil War hospital, but you have Adams thinking about the young men who are suffering from AIDS in 1989. And you have this overlay, and you have a snapshot of both of these times, but you're experiencing it in this one incredible piece of music.
It has become one of the iconic concert pieces of the American music, classical music canon. John Adams being obviously one of the foremost, if not the foremost, American composer of our time, um, and Walt Whitman being the iconoclastic voice of democracy and America. And what is so powerful in this piece is it's just all about compassion. It's all about the other person that you're caring for. It's all about love. It's all about finding a reason in your own life because you've been compassionate and understanding and loving for someone else. And musically, it is one of the most, it's just an incredibly beautiful piece of music from John Adams. But the setting of the text, it's also one of the most, is incredible. His word setting is perfect in this, absolutely. But like you say, Walt Whitman, this is one of the most personal poems that Walt wrote based on his experience as a nurse in the Civil War hospitals. And that's the specific context, which is important to know. But the message of the piece is just so much wider and quite frankly timeless.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so gripping, the piece itself, even not knowing the context. I think you can
Now,
still experience the emotions.
in terms of just how things function, if you go back, you can see that on everything you're seeing in terms of a recording on site here, we offer you a place where you can, if you want to buy the recording, you can go buy it. That's your business. You can do what you want. And all of the recordings on all of the radio programs, all of the digital evidences of the documentary are shown, and you can buy them or find out what they are. But when you actually play the show, it is not downloadable and it is not on demand. So you need to decide to play the show. You can't click and say, oh, I want to hear the John Adams thing. You need to play the show, and that is an incredibly important and generous distinction between fair use of America copyright law and Europeans. It enables enables documentaries to live online, quite frankly. And we've gone the extra steps so that anybody in any program that we do has their own PR reference as well as web reference, as also buying reference for the material we used in the show. So it's very interrelated. You can explore all you would like. Now you can, of course, I can't do it. You're doing it. You can scrub, I suppose, in the show if you start and you like it, but you want to go to the end, you can move that. But I don't want you to. I want you to listen. This week on song.
Yeah, I had completely skipped over that. You can listen to these shows in their entirety here, and that's really the point. And to even quickly...
Yeah, on the right-hand side, these are interactive. These categories, go back down. These categories are just going to be other places on the website that these would be referenced to. In other words, John Adams, if we push John Adams, we're going to go to our John Adams listing of things that we have on the website. Is that not correct?
Yeah, here we go. So it's a resource category. So every resource
exactly.
that we have.
So everything is cross-referenced and everything is hyperlinked. It's a lot of fun to get lost and find out what you want to do. Yeah, these are I was working in the University of Michigan last year. I gave a class, and this young man was singing the Moondresser with piano, and he was going to do it in a recital, which I found I didn't know that was done. I mean, I think it's a wonderful idea. If you what else can we share? Yeah, these are master classes and so forth. I give a lot of master classes around the world, and as you well know, very often they're on live stream or they're captured by the different educational institutions. We take them and house them as well. So if young singers want to reference a class they were in or they heard about, they can drop the needle and visit whatever the class they were. But let's go back to the radio series, which is kind of the hub of what we're doing this evening. Christy.
Yeah. Well, and what I wanted to also say is that if you want to go ahead and listen to these recordings on IDAGIO, most of them are there. And if they're not there yet, then they will be there soon, I'm sure. So if you hear a song on one of the programs that you really like, then you should go and look it up on IDAGIO. And just to talk about this a little bit more, I found a few of our songs from this program on there. And just to tell a little bit more about the structure of this program, so we go from 1989 to 1789, and we talk about French Revolution, we talk about Mozart, we talk about the songs that were being written during that time, and from there we flip to 1889, with the first focus being on the Paris Exposition and the World's Fair that had such a huge influence on world culture, especially Western culture, but bringing Eastern culture to Western culture. And we have songs like Claude Debussy, La Flûte de Pan. And here, this song, I've already found, of course, the incredible Marilyn Horne singing, and let me just switch over to the IDAGIO.
I want to see if my IDAGIO my app closed. Let's see if I have my... yes. All right. We're right. So if you go up to the search bar, you have the Bustle in a House, right?
Yeah, but I had found...
You just happen to be on there. But if you can do... Well, do you want to put in the title? Yeah.
La Flûte de Pan. And let's see if we can find works. Oops.
Jean Crass, that's an incredible story. Forgotten Master.
Well, I found it when I went to look at Marilyn Horne's page.
All right, let's go to Marilyn.
Because she's fantastic and she has recorded so much. And then I went to look at her composers.
Why don't you go and click on Marilyn first? There we are. And then let's look in her. Yeah, exactly. There's a list of composers. You can see what we're doing. Here's Marilyn Horne online. And then you see all the various composers, and it says even more, 200 more categories. So if we find Debussy, then we will find, just to show you how to do this, that's Leonard Bernstein. I would go to show all 214. There we go. Debussy. And here we go. There's the record right there.
Yep, it's on this beautiful recording. And then we have to, this is a huge collection. So to kind of look for
There we
this
go. And we're
section.
going to go down to Debussy because I want to show something else that is really fun in the Adagio website. Where is the song? Wolf, this is a wonderful collection. Marilyn was just one of the great leader singers. I've known Marilyn Horn for a long time. I mean, she's a mentor. I admire her so much. Her great mentor was Gwendolyn Kodowski, and I had the pleasure of also studying with Madame Godowski at the Music Academy of the West. What I didn't get to do was study with Lotte Lehmann. That's where Lotte Lehmann was. Lotte Lehmann died 2 years before I came, but Marilyn Horn was actually a student of Lotte Lehmann. Put that in your genealogy. I mean, it's unbelievable. Great singer of songs. But so if you look on the right-hand side, you see here's the Chanson de Bilitis, La Flûte de Pan. If you look on the right-hand side, you have 3 ellipses. If you click on that, those little 3 dots, we call them an ellipse, you can make a playlist. And if you click on playlist, it'll pull up another window, and you can make a playlist that says Marilyn Horn, or it says leader, or whatever you want it to say. You can create a playlist, all right, or just add it to another playlist. And this playlist goes with you on your telephone, on your iPad, on your computer, stays with you. It's a wonderful thing to build playlists. Now, going back, server error. We don't
No,
like
it
server.
worked. Here it is. Here's the playlist. I made a Marilyn Horn playlist.
Go to Marilyn again.
Oh, back to Marilyn. Okay.
There we are. That should be it. Now, if we go back over to the right-hand side, if you click the chevron, are you on the app or on the website?
I'm on the app. Did you want to go back to her page or
Yeah,
to
let's
the
go. Yeah, I want you to pull up the La Flûte de Pan.
the song again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a method to my madness. Trust me.
Yes. So.
All right. So we go to there it is. Now, if you go over to the right side where those 3 dots are. No. Yeah. The 3 dots are called an ellipse, and the other thing is called a chevron. If you push the chevron on this song, go ahead. Boy, your mouse is jumping all over the place. No. Go on the right side there. That. Right. Now, click on the chevron. Now you see, no, wait a minute, go back over to the song. Now, if you play the song, if you click on the song here, go to start the song. Click on the title.
It's loading. Yeah. It's hard to stop that, but
No, it's great. Here we go. You see on the right-hand side what happens here? All recordings of Chansons de Bilitis in the entire Idagio database. That's what I wanted to show you. So if you want to explore let me go the other way. I don't know how many times I've had friends and colleagues, as much as just general public, say, "Oh well, I don't know enough about it. Classical music. I'm not sure. I know what I'm doing, but I like this and I don't like that, and so forth." I can tell you, most classical musicians, it breaks their heart to hear that, because they want to say it doesn't matter. You just explore and love the music that you find and want to explore. With song, it's even more specific, because you're going to have this Alice in Wonderland tunnel experience of one poem leading to the other and one composer leading to the other. And one of the great things about adagio.com is this cross-reference database. So if you found La Flûte de Pan from Debussy and Ariette Oubli and from Marilyn Horn, and you love Marilyn Horn, but you get this whole list of other people, and oh my goodness, there's a man, there's a woman, there's another, there's these years, these different pianists. Let's hear what that sounds like. Oh, is it possible to sing the same song and sound completely different? Yes. And all of a sudden you realize that the entire conversation of classical music is actually a wide conversation. It is not knowing exactly how it goes, when it goes. Classical music is the evidence of who we are. I always get very frustrated with people talking about, especially politicians, that classical music is somehow elitist. It's completely ridiculous. What is elitist about a ubiquitous website where you can listen to all sorts of generations of recorded music? And even furthermore, if we hadn't had the revolutions of the late 18th century, French and American specifically, we wouldn't have that birth of individual. We wouldn't have had well, that was the point of the revolution. I will have my self-determination. And out of that self-determination said, I will read this, I will compose this, I will listen to this. And then it became the democratization of the concert experience. And all of a sudden you had concert halls and concert performances, no longer just to the rich and famous or to the aristocracy. So the idea, I mean, it's so ridiculous to call classic music elitist. It is actually one of the most phenomenal evidences of the birth of the individual in the beginning of the 19th century. It is the evidence, if you will, of democracy, of I want to do this, I want to think this, and I have the right to. So I would like to put that argument to bed. That's a little bit how the IDAGIO site works to cross-reference music. We are going back through the website, especially on specific project lists, and adding IDAGIO connectivity to it. That's going to take a little bit. I don't want to promise to feel, and I don't want Christy to faint, but that is our that is our objective. With a couple of other projects that we're very close to, especially in the African American canon of classical music, and some of our partners online with the African American Song Alliance and with the magnificent website of Dr. Louise Toppin of the Diaspora. What is the actual title?
The African Diaspora Music
Yeah.
Project.
African Diaspora database. And there, all of these songs that you want to hear will be cross-referenced, YouTube, Amazon, but especially idagio.com. And IDAGIO is building their library every day. There's more people working behind the scenes than you can possibly imagine. So the marriage of our two forces is, I think, really exciting and appropriate. We can really take this whole conversation of song and culture and history of culture, especially, to a new dimension. You're on. Oh, Christy, are you frozen? I'm on. I'm going to see if my website is working and my web page is. It looks like I am, and I'm going to go here. Right. Okay. Now, what I can do, I'm also going to screen share. It looks like Christy's having a bit of a fight. I'm going to turn on these two things. So we're going back to IDAGIO. Just now, I'm in control. And yeah, this is a new recording that just came out. The Charles Ives Complete Symphonies with Los Angeles and Gustavo. It's really quite fun. I'm getting a message here. I have to see. All right, something else. But for instance, if we go back here to record, let's go to Dudamel. Let's have that pull up. And I'm online now, so this will work even better. Here's our ellipse, I'm going to do it, but here's our chevron. And if you do this one, that's when you get this. So these are in their catalog, all the other recordings. I mean, I grew up with Leonard and Bernstein and Eugene Ormandy, and of course, Michael Tilson Thomas's expose, but this would just be the number one. Anyway, and making playlists is really quite fun. I wanted to show you another thing. If we look for an artist, and if I can take myself as an example here, one of the really exciting things that IDAGIO gives us is the possibility of having unique recorded material only available on IDAGIO. You're seeing this. So I'm going to go down here like this. I have to look for a little bit. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom here, and there's the ensembles. I have several ensembles I've worked with. I made a lot of recordings in my career, which is very exciting. And now I'm going to use this soloist, various solos. I keep scrolling all the way down. And then where am I going to find this? I looked this up recently. I need to find show all conductors. I'm looking for my recordings that are only available on IDAGIO. No, I've now taken myself out of my own site. Well, trust me, it's possible. You can find, it is a little bit, and now we're just scrolling endlessly down through all sorts of things, but there should be secular work. There should be a thing there here that says, I wonder if it's, it just seems to me there should be, there is something I'm just not getting at. I was going to look at it before, but maybe if I just do myself and then go down here, there's a handful of recordings that I've loaded up that are actually only available on Adagio, but we're going to have to figure out a better. I'm also always taking notes and helping Adagio get a little bit more focused, and this would be a new note that I can send to him. It needs to be easier to find the exclusive material of various artists. If we go to New World Symphony, however, that's on their splash page. Right, here's New World Symphony. And then you'll see things like this. New World Symphony, that's their own stuff, and it is things that are exclusive on Idagio. So you'll see more and more that one of the guiding principles in the launch of Idagio was in fact to bring an artist and their public closer, get rid of the middleman, record for your audience, build your own channels, and also, quite frankly, market directly to the people who want to follow you and follow your work. And I think that is a wonderful addition to the recording industry. Shall we go back to normal and talk some more? What else do we want to talk about?
Well, what I wanted to conclude with in talking about Song Mirror of the World is that in the coming weeks, we'll be having some of the scholars who wrote programs for that
Right.
radio series come on. And that's really exciting because we have confirmed for next week Dr. Michael Haas, who wrote the program on Jewish composers in the time of the Nazis, and he has done such incredible
Michael
work
Michael is very
this
famous for a
music.
book he wrote called Forbidden Music, which was essentially an expose of abandoned entartete Musik from the 19th century on through, and it's a wonderful book. He is also co-director of the Exilarte project in Vienna. Our weeks are now, certainly this month, we're going to have some scholars come in, and then we will have subject that we want to focus on. So Michael, we're going to focus on a lot of music from the 19th century to contemporary music of band composers, and talk about literally the interruptions of cultural heritage is what a lot of this unbelievable political and physical abuse was. The murdering of many intellectuals and composers. And yes, certainly the Jewish story of the 20th century is front and center, but discrimination and abandonment and banning has been a part of music making and remains so to this day. And that it's also a bigger issue. I don't want to minimize any of it. It's a very complex, obviously sensitive conversation. But the good news is it is blessed with some of the most gorgeous and wonderful, important music that we could possibly collectively as humanity own. And then we want to focus on women's studies. We want to focus on the German leader tradition with women's studies. We haven't gotten exactly the person who's coming yet. We have several people coming in. We're going to have the wonderful musicologist from Notre Dame, Susan Joens, as our guest to talk about everything. And please don't miss that. She is brilliant and wonderful.
Everything German leader and German literature.
You know, I remember when I founded this thing, one of my favorite phrases is connect the dots.
Yeah.
And that's why some of these musicologists and scholars are just become such close friends, because they're so good at connecting so many dots of our reference in history and psychology and sociology and music and poetry. And Susan is just a recognized, loved master of this in our field. And we have Terence Mcknight coming.
Yes, Terence Mcknight from WQXR in New
From
York.
WQXR fame. He wrote the program we did on Langston Hughes, which was one of my favorite programs. And he's going to give us a wonderful program and walk through, quite frankly, probably a lot of the state of the art of new recognition of the African American classical music canon, some of the problems with it, and a lot of the good with it. And we're going to explore a lot of poetry, not just Langston Hughes, and a lot of songs. So that'll be a wonderful show.
Yeah.
We are also going to have in the coming Tuesdays various organizations that will simply take over a month of their own agenda of music making. And I am not promising too much that in October, the New World Symphony, which is Michael Tilson Thomas's brainchild, run by some of my oldest friends in the business, of which he is also one, are going to have not only an exclusive series of concerts on the Global Concert Hall available, but also every Tuesday exploring various components of their own educational facility and programs and creations and young artists and young composers. It's in a it can be a wonderful month. The nice thing about all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is even the very first one I did in March, this is different than the concert hall. The Idagio Live remains online. If you go to Idagio Live YouTube channel, or from now on also the Hampsong Foundation channel, these podcasts that we're doing will be available. So if you're going to do 10 minutes now and you want to do 10 minutes later, or 20 minutes before you go to sleep, or 15 minutes in the morning over your coffee, it's your choice. You can do whatever you want with it and have a great deal of fun and cross-referencing. Am I missing anything?
No, I just, before we go, I would be remiss to not talk about our amazing singers on singing.
Yeah, should I go back or you go back?
I'll go back to the Hampsong
Go back
Foundation.
to the Hampsong Foundation site. Exactly. Singers on Singing is one of the least expected and one of the most exciting resources that I've made possible. I'm just extremely proud of this, and it's so much fun.
So, and if you see in our projects on our homepage, it pops up here. Singers on Singing, Great Artists in Conversation. And this has been curated by the wonderful John Talansky, who has done so many incredible and groundbreaking interviews and radio programs that will benefit,
And
love.
literally for the last 30 years. I mean, I was having lunch with John several years ago after doing one of his shows on Schubert, and I was a guest and so forth. And I sort of asked him, gee, you must have an amazing archive. And he said, oh, you can't imagine. I said, well, what are you doing with it? And he said, well, there's nothing to do with it. And I said, I beg to differ. I said, would you like to house it on the Hampsong Foundation? And John looked at me and said, would you? And I looked at John, I said, would you? And I think I bought lunch. But he literally has put up this archive, and exactly, scroll very slowly, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. His interview with Maria Callas, his interview with Tito Fischer-Dieskau, Mirella Freni, Angelou Gheorghiu, Gedda, Gobi, Lehmann, even Hampson, Horn, Ruggero Raimondi, Dame Elizabeth. These are these great singers of the past and today, in their words, having a conversation. And this is all just Sir John Tomlinson. This is one of the great interviews. John Vickers talking about singing and interpretation and being in the role. I mean, my goodness me. And John has gone on the other part of this singing thing. We have other special programs on composers, Graham Johnson on Beethoven and Poulenc. He's also done this marvelous program with Michael Haas, in which we interviewed Walter Arlen, who turned 100 this year, who lives in Los Angeles and grew up in Vienna and had to leave Vienna, exiled Vienna, chased out of Vienna, and made his life in Los Angeles, but kept composing. And his teachers were students of Hugo Wolf, and his song output, one of the great unknown treasures of the world, quite frankly, is slowly but surely becoming more well known. And his story about the 20th century, quite frankly, and music making and the traumas that we have been through is unmissable. And it's just now going online. So these are very, very, very exciting projects. What did you want to highlight?
That will be coming out after our Idagio Live program with Michael Haas. So we'll be able to talk about that in more detail next week, which is really exciting.
Right.
There's also a subsection of Singers on Singing called Signature Roles, where we have some artists speaking about some of the roles that made them who they are. And they're just amazing. Entire programs with Grace Bumbry talking
Like,
about
can you imagine have an hour with Grace Bumbry talking about Carmen? Now, if you're a fan, this is really exciting. If you're a student, you'd be a fool not to listen to it. Anything that Jose Van Damme has to say about singing and the repertoire he sang is worth its weight in gold. I'm very, very pleased. We are very pleased to make this possible, not for everybody, certainly for everybody, but especially for my younger colleagues coming up through the ranks and widening their perspective of what it means to be a singer.
Yeah. And I've also gone through the trouble, and this was John's idea, absolutely, to create an index. So
Ah,
if you are performing a certain role, a certain opera, something from a certain composer, you can go and you can look up, okay, Carmen. In which program do singers talk about Carmen? Well, not only the Grace Bumbry program, but also the Georgiou program, the Marilyn Horne program, and the Sophie Koch program. You can hear different artists talk about how they interpreted different roles.
how about the famous Luciano Pavarotti talking about Calaf? Vincero, vincero. I mean, wow, this is a
Yeah,
very exciting.
it is really an incredible archive, and I think many people do know about it, but there's so much to explore, and you can jump right from one of these programs to the artist page on Idagio and just dive into the recordings after you hear them talk about it. So there's a lot to be listened to here. It's very exciting.
We've only scratched the surface. The cross reference, and we didn't even go to the Song of America
Yeah,
daughter or sister website of the foundation, which is all about American poetry, American history, and American composers. We will probably get into that later in this month. And that's built on a timeline. So everything is cross-referenced between the history of American major events as well as the composers, their lifetimes, the poets, their lifetimes, the songs. So, and this was one of my first passions. I sing a lot of different kinds of songs and have over the years, and people say, "Oh, I love that song. I'd never heard that," and I love that comment. But I wanted to say, well, here, go find out more about it, and now you can. So if you hear a song you haven't heard and you know the title, if you go to this particular website, if it's an American song, it's somewhat cross-referenced the other one as well. It'll take you to the poet, what other composers set that poet, or what other poets did that composer set that you like that song. When did it happen in history? What part of the American culture is that song telling its story from, which is a big property of American classics, especially classic song. There's a kind of, not a kind of, there's a serious diary of the history of American culture seen through our poets and heard through our composers that's inherent. But that's for another show. That just shows you how rich the resources are. We thought we would just take this kickoff in the beginning of September, the new season, to show you, have fun, hampsongfoundation.org. If you get lost, go to thomashampson.com and you'll see connections to everything else. thomashampson.com, hampsongfoundation.org, songofamerica.net. Knock yourselves out, widen your horizon, connect your dots.
yeah, it's a launch pad. It's all a launch pad.
It's a launch pad, it's a dashboard,
Hmm.
it's all free,
Yeah.
made with love. And with that, we've reached 50 minutes. Thank you for your patience. I actually meant to play a few more musical excerpts just for our own enjoyment, but I promise you in the coming sessions, we will have more music excerpt, not just excerpts, but probably in a 50-minute session, maybe as much as 10 minutes of music, and then our conversations and interviews with our people, our guests. Next week, Michael Haas and the exploration of banned and forbidden composers and poets, starting with Mendelssohn. That'll keep you thinking. Thank you, Christy. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. It's always a
And
pleasure. So
I'll
much
talk to you in the morning.
fun. Indeed, indeed.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for visiting. All the best. Drop the needle. Love music. Cheers.